Hey guys, Simon here, and over the last 2 or 3 weeks I've been rewatching the Clone Wars, obviously in anticipation for the 7th series debuting next year. Because it's been, I first watched the Clone Wars way back, well not way back, but sort of in the early part of 2016. I'd never seen it before. Obviously, I just started making YouTube videos on my other channel, and people had suggested to me, because I'd made it evident that I was a Star Wars fan, and people said, you know what, you should watch this Clone Wars show because it's really, really good. And so I did. I watched the entirety of the 6 seasons in the space of, I think, 3 months, and watched every single episode in seasonal order rather than chronological order, and I absolutely loved it. And it's one of those things that I've not been back to see it since. And so, whilst I remember a lot of the main plot, a lot of the characters, I wanted to go back and rewatch it because I wanted to familiarise myself again with all of the little details. And I thought, why not at the end of each season when I finish, just have a little bit of a catch up and let you guys know what I thought, because I think a lot changes when you watch a show a second time around, because you get to concentrate more on different aspects and characters and see how they've changed, because there are characters in this that by the end of the show, they are so different to when they first started, that you're really like, wow, that's actually pretty impressive how different they are from when they started. Some really good character development there. So this time around, I'm actually watching it in chronological order, which for the first season, there's not too much of a difference. There's a couple of episodes that you watch first and foremost, and then obviously you've got the movie, and then the 2 episodes from season 3. But for the most part, it stays in its general order. Now, one of the things that I actually realised, and it was kind of really jarring at first, is the animation quality. When I first watched this show, I thought, you know what, that's pretty decent. But it's only now, obviously, because this show is 10 years old, and having seen some of their more recent shows, like Rebels, you realise the difference in the quality of the animation, especially in the early seasons. Obviously, as time goes on, and the seasons go on, it gets better and better. But it can be really jarring at first because there's not a lot of emotions in the face, because obviously they had limited technology in 2008. So that was one of the first things I kind of was like, "Whoa, that's a bit." It's taking me out of it just a little bit, but it wasn't. It wasn't too bad. I got used to it again within a couple of episodes. The really overarching thing from this season, I would say, is that whilst there are, several episode arcs, it does feel a little bit disjointed in terms of, there's vastly different tones right throughout the season. The very first episode of the season itself, where Yoda heads to, one of the planets to convince a king to join the Republic. That episode is very much aimed more towards a younger audience, I think. And I think, obviously, with this season, it was kind of a bit more tame than some of the seasons that are coming up. But, it's understandable, because this is the first season. It can't just set itself out as being this really dark, kind of gritty show. It needs to gather a core audience. Watching it in chronological order actually makes a lot more sense, because, I was watching it the first time around, and there would be occasions where I'd be like, I don't quite understand what's happening there. We've got this battle that we haven't seen before and they seem to be in the middle of, and then there's other episodes where there's a jump back in time. Like specifically in this first season, you obviously see Domino Squad after they have graduated from training, and you see Heavy die. But, you don't really understand the significance of that until you see the first episodes of season 3, where they actually show you their training. They show you how disjointed they were and how they were a terrible team at first. So watching it in chronological order really does give it that emotional impact that, wasn't quite there when I first watched it. And I got really, really sad with 99, and his death, because that was like a really wholesome moment. Like, the whole thing of making him, he was one of the brothers, and, he was helping out, and, he just wanted to be one of them. And in the end, he did get to, but, it's still really, really sad. One of the things as well that kind of surprised me was how much I actually didn't like Ahsoka at first. And I know this was kind of like a commonly held kind of opinion. I think when I first watched the show, Ahsoka didn't really bother me too much. I was just like, oh, okay, she's new. Anakin's got a Padawan. I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, she's never mentioned in the movies. Anakin's not even a master. Okay, that's a bit odd. But now that I accept the concept of who Ahsoka is, and I know who she grows up to be, I was obviously, I'm fine with it. But then when I was watching it, like, at first, it's like, she is quite annoying, not just like in what she does, but in the way she acts and even the way she sounds. It's like she's intentionally antagonistic. And I think they did that on purpose so that they could give her the brilliant character development that she gets. Because right the way through this season, she does make mistakes. There are times when she actually, makes the right decisions against the wills of her masters. But a lot of the time she does make mistakes and she learns from that. And I think that, her character development has been the best on the entire show. And obviously I'm looking very much forward to seeing where, obviously her further development, even though I know what's going to happen, I'm just going to enjoy seeing that character grow up. And again, it's very weird seeing her being young again. I'm so used to kind of like adult Ahsoka from Rebels and like older Ahsoka from the end of the Clone Wars, that, seeing her being really, really young and small, I was just like, whoa, is that Ahsoka? I'm very much looking forward to seeing like what she's been up to when we do get season 7 next year. Again, with this season, there were some difficult episodes to watch, specifically the Bombad Jedi episode, because I'm definitely more relaxed on Jar Jar now than I used to be. And to be honest, going back and watching a lot of my old reactions, which if you haven't seen my old reactions, they're all over on my other channel. My name is Simon, which, if you go to the homepage here, you'll see the channel linked, and there's a playlist with every single episode that I've reacted to. They're terrible, by the way, those reactions, because it was like literally the first videos I ever made. And there was no production quality. I was not confident. I didn't really know what I was doing. There's a lot that I would be doing differently if I was reacting to the show today. But, the Bombad Jedi episode with Jar Jar, I used to really like come down harsh on Jar Jar just because I thought it was funny. And because, it's cool to hate on Jar Jar. And I still don't like the character, and I still think that episode was really silly. The idea of Jar Jar being so clumsy that he inadvertently disguises himself as a Jedi and manages to convince these droids that he's a Jedi. It just really was kind of like, okay, I remember this, and it wasn't good, but it'll be over soon. It's just one of those episodes you've kind of really got to grit your teeth and get through. But that's really kind of like, I think, the lowest point that this season gets to. And it's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that if you don't really enjoy those kinds of episodes and that character, it can be a little bit tough to get through. One of my favourite episodes in this series was probably episode 11, Dooku Captured. And I think they should rename the episode to Sass, because it is such a sassy episode. This is what I always wanted between Anakin and Obi-Wan, was just this time to focus on them as a master-apprentice kind of pairing. Because there's so much back and forth in that episode. Like, Obi-Wan is on fire. Like, he is literally burning Anakin at every single opportunity. Because obviously Anakin gets himself intentionally captured to get on board the Separatist ship. And Obi-Wan's just there, and he's just giving him all kinds of grief, and I am there for it. I am loving it. And it's something that, I just wish we could have gotten more of, not just in the live-action films, but, just in general. I could totally be down for an entire season of just Anakin and Obi-Wan going on missions together and just literally ripping each other apart verbally, because that is where I'm at. But those couple of episodes were really, really good as well, because, I mean, you introduced Hondo as a character who changes a lot, you know, over the years, specifically from Clone Wars to Rebels. He goes from being kind of like a ruthless pirate who will capture Sith Lords and Jedi to, you know, being a bit more of a squirmy kind of cowardly character. You know, but again, there's a difference of like, what, 15 years between the events of the two shows, so I can't really, you know, blame him for changing over the years. The Lair of Grievous episode was really good. I remember when I first watched that, it was like one of the first episodes that really kind of spooked me. It had a really kind of it had an atmosphere, like a tense atmosphere, because, you know, it was like a thriller. You know, these, you know, the Jedi and the clones kind of like going around the lair of Grievous, you know, really kind of trying to avoid his traps, and the way he moves, you know, and he's just a very creepy character, Grievous, but I love him all the same. I need a sip of coffee. That's good. So I really enjoyed that episode, and it's the first time that we see, I believe it's the first time we see a Jedi get killed in the show, the young Padawan. I think, is it Nadar Veb? Actually, sorry, he's a former Padawan. He was with his former master. He'd just become a Jedi Knight, and, you know, again, very much a very brash and cocky attitude that, you know, I think came to encompass a lot of the young Jedi. You know, Yoda, I think Yoda actually specifically mentions it, whether it's in the movie or the series, that young Jedi are becoming too overconfident and too cocky. And that episode gave a very good example of that. You know, this Jedi who's just, you know, he's got this confidence because he's just been made a Jedi Knight, and he's going to be the one to bring down Grievous and end the Separatist rebellion, you know, and he gets killed for it. And I think that was a really good way of subtly kind of linking in with the fact that, you know, there is this kind of underlying arrogance in the Jedi that slowly kind of comes out more and more in the future. The season finale, Hostage Crisis, I think was probably my favourite episode, and it introduces one of my favourite characters, Cad Bane, who, again, was just completely different to anything we'd seen before. Bounty hunters in Star Wars, you know, they're so... I don't know, I think they're underutilised in a way, or they had been at least before this show came out. You know, we'd seen Boba Fett and Jango Fett and Sam, the you know, the one from episode 2, and they didn't really feel like much of a threat, you know, because they all died, you know, and they all kind of just... They didn't seem very capable. And I think one thing Clone Wars did was really give bounty hunters their you know, sort of mojo back, you know. You introduce some really ruthless but really interesting characters. Aura Singh, Cad Bane, you know, and we see some of the ones as well who show up later on. IG-88, Dengar, you know, Boba obviously gets his introduction in this as well. But that was my favourite episode because, you know, we actually got to see some of Coruscant. We see them attacking the Senate building, and it was just a very fun episode. I really, really like that. You know, we had some other stuff on Naboo, we had stuff on Ryloth, and they were interesting in their own ways. You know, it was fun to go back and see them again. But I think season 1 for me, it was very inconsistent. It was very kind of up and down. You know, there was some good episodes, and there was some okay episodes, and then some good episodes, and then some not good episodes. You know, there wasn't really any kind of underlying arc going right the way through, other than we're at war with the Separatists. You know, this is what's going on. Obviously, as seasons go on, they're able to build in more of, you know, the little breadcrumbs that would become the overarching story. But this first season, it was a decent setup. You know, certainly, obviously, it was a success because it got another 5 seasons after that. But obviously, it was very kind of like, let's test the waters kind of deal. So I did enjoy it. You know, it's helped me a lot watching the show again over the last few months, and I have really, really enjoyed, you know, just some of the interactions are great, and, you know, Clone Wars is one of my favourite shows of all time, and, you know, it's one of those that it's been long enough now since I last watched it that watching it again, whilst I know what happens, it still feels fresh, and it still feels kind of like, oh, I forgot about that, and that's great, and there's some stuff maybe I forgot about that's coming up that I will, you know, be like, oh, great, I forgot that happened. You know, so I did really enjoy this season, and you know, I'm looking forward to jumping into season 2, because I know that obviously the things get a lot better from this point onwards. But I want to just catch up with you guys, just let you know what I thought about that first season, and you know, just give you, I'm going to be doing this for every season, giving you kind of a recap on my thoughts. Obviously we've still got like a year to go before season 7 is released, so I'm probably going to finish recapping them long before that show comes out. But, you know, it's good for me to get that refresher. Obviously, we've got Resistance coming up next month, which I will also be watching. I'm still undecided about how I'm going to go about doing videos for that. I'm torn between just reacting to them and reviewing them here, or splitting them up and doing the reacting side over on the other channel to potentially avoid any kind of copyright issues here, and then doing the reviews here. I'm not sure. Well, I'll see how it goes. But obviously I'll let you guys know. So anyway, thank you very much for sticking around and watching this video. Again, if you've been watching the show back recently, or just if you want to leave your comments about season 1 in general, I would love to read them in the comments. Let me know what you thought about that season. What were your favourite episodes? What were your, you know, moments that you didn't particularly like? What were your early impressions about some of the characters? I'd very much like you to let me know in the comments. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, so you don't miss out on more videos, which there will be more videos coming up, because I know that there's been a little bit of a slowdown, but that's just because of in real life stuff. Things will start picking back up soon. But thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you for the next video.